All right. Welcome, welcome, everyone. So happy to be in conversation with you all today, following up Biden's speech. Before we just kick it off, I want to say thank you to all of you all for joining in this conversation. And thank you to our sponsors, Family Values at Work, Moms Rising, Paid Leave for All, plus National Partnership for Women, Closing the Women's Wealth Gap, and the Labor Project. A lot of really great partners interested to see where this conversation is going. I'm Sade Moonsammy. I'm the Interim Executive Director with Family Values at Work, and I'm really excited to be joined by Chineva Smith, Dawn Huckelbridge, and Josie Badger for this exciting conversation. So let's just get into it. What did you all think about the conversation?
Well, I'm happy to start. Just that, starting from the beginning chronologically, I did like that it opened with, as we often say, a real person. I think it's just a shift, in terms of the imagery and the messaging than from what we've had for quite a while, which is that centering sort of the most impacted people, some of the real lived experiences in government and leadership. And so I just thought that was a nice opening to not just start with the president, but to start with a story and a person who's been really directly impacted. So that was just refreshing for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like how it identified a lot of the things that we are struggling with currently, and that's just it's not a specific partisan party that it was focused on. Like we all struggle with childcare, we all are struggling with health issues, we all are struggling with employment. So putting that as a center focus of what's been going on in America, as well as putting note that we are in trouble, we are endangering ourselves if we do not fix what's going on in our economy and taking care of our citizens of the United States. So I was very happy to hear the president focus on that.
Yeah, I echo what both of you just said. And I was really it sat well with my soul that we were realistic. We weren't talking about, oh, this is going to disappear by the next holiday. That we were in the moment saying, we know Americans are suffering. We know that this is a real thing. And here's what we're going to do to make a difference.
Agreed, Josie. I think people feel like now that the vaccine is rolling out, that we're coming close to an end, and there's just so much repair that needs to happen, and so much that was unearthed in this conversation on just what we're lacking as a country, that it was exciting to see the beginnings of a plan.
I actually love how the president was very, very honest about the impact on the lead piping in the schools and how it affects our children. Everyone knows a child or knows someone who has a child. So that was it touched my soul just to hear that his focus is on employing people at 100% to get the pipes fixed at 100%, because our youth are the future.
I'm from north of Pittsburgh, and so obviously I had like a special interest in this. But I have recently been able to meet a principal from the Philadelphia area who said that all of their pipes in the school district were highly contaminated, were lead-based, and that the students were not supposed to be drinking water from those locations. And so it's not just in federal buildings, it's not in older houses, it's in the schools. And so this is such an important part of, as he said, the infrastructure of America, building our next generation stronger than we are now.
I also loved just talking about the human toll and making this really personal and relatable, and talking about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, because I think that is the universal right now, that there are so many people doing extraordinary things. There are so many tragedies that have literally been invisible, so much work and pain that hasn't been kind of lifted up, and a lot of us, it's behind closed doors and in lockdown. So I think it's just to me, that is a really heartening thing in leadership, to be lifting up those stories and to be talking about the pain and the human toll that this pandemic and everything that came with it has taken. So I thought that was just important grounding and yeah, good.
Agreed. What were some of the other components that you all heard or just like resonated with you all from the plan, and what kind of impact do you think it's going to have on our communities and on working America?
I would say the access to, expanded access to affordable quality home-based health care, that resonated with me the most, because as we all are going through things, we are seeing family members, friends, co-workers, neighbors transition at a faster rate because of COVID-19. But then it's also putting into reality that without COVID-19, this still would have happened. So this is just giving more of an alarm rate of seeing how much extended care is, and then just to be able to give individuals the right to have that care at home. You know, that is so important, a connection to the community, being around the surroundings that you are used to being around. Putting someone into a facility is not the biggest choice that an individual will want. They will want to be around their family members. And then also that made me think about how so many people are going into these hospitals and going into institutions. It's the last time that they get to see their family members, which is so heartbreaking, to the point that just can't be anymore. Let's figure out how we can make sure that people are being able to have a life all the way into their ending days.
Amen. Amen. So whether you guys know it or not, I am a person with a disability, and I rely on those caregivers, paid and unpaid, to get out of bed every day, to go to work. And so, like, coming from the disability community, no one is like, please put me in a warehouse for the rest of my days. Please, lock me up so I have no rights or choices. People want to live in their homes, and we know it's cheaper for people to live in their homes, and we want to work. And so I'm super excited about supporting those caregivers. And as you mentioned, the caregivers are often, we know, underpaid, they're undervalued, and they're underseen. And that was so impactful. We don't realize from an outsider perspective how much time is spent and actually how much money is saved by the government when we are supporting those caregivers for people with disabilities, or the elderly, or the children. And so I'm so excited to see that come to fruition.
And I think it's important that this is valuing both the people who need the care and the caregivers, and sort of honoring both sides of care, which all of us will experience at some point in our lives, both the giving and receiving of care. But I also will say it's an historic investment. $400 billion. Talking about how this is the kind of policy change, the kind of investment in real working families and real people that we haven't seen in a long, long time, and that I think this pandemic has made so clear is overdue. So it was just encouraged by the action behind the words too.
To add to that, I want to say it's finally America's investment on compassion and empathy.
Yes, perfect words.
Yeah, I think it was really important that he clearly stated around care jobs and folks who work care jobs that Black and brown women have utterly been disrespected because of systemic racist practice, have been undervalued, have been underpaid. When we look at our childcare workers, majority making under $11 an hour, how do they survive? How do they continue to help and support their own families when they can't afford care? And so really, it's a part that kind of gives me hope of that we're starting to have this conversation and have it deeply on the undervaluing of care and what we need to do.
And I have to say, of course, excited to see prong 2. Yeah, the second part of this plan to come, because this is historic, and I'm so excited to see sort of the vision come together as a whole. But we do expect that there's going to be a lot of other really good policy and investment in the second part, which I think should come out in the next couple of weeks. In terms of paid family medical leave, in terms of childcare investments, in terms of other sort of healthcare investments. So I'm excited to see how they present these things as interlocking and as both integral to our overall economic health and our resilience as a country, and as as an economy, because I think you can present them in different, packages and proposals. But in the end, I think one thing we've learned out of COVID is that there really isn't separating the two.
Definitely. I think other parts that made me excited is the protection of workers to just like unionize and organize. I know all of you have been deep in the field and really looking at this. How did that show up for you all?
It's refreshing, just how often we're hearing about the importance of unions and the right to organize, and just, it's just, to me, hearing that for the first time in quite a while is so refreshing and so important, and reinforcing how important this is to our economic stability and growth too.
I would also say it was really a moment of peace, if I can explain, far as with we were heading in a direction where the middle class was going to be eliminated. So to hear the president say that he wants to focus on rebuilding the middle class and investing in the middle class, it just was a moment of peace. It gives me hope that, those of us that looks just like us, that are given another chance in order to be heard, and that this is their country, our country too. It's not just for the rich.
Yeah, I think the line was, one of the lines was rewarding work and not just wealth.
Yes.
Was a dangerous pattern we were getting into as a country. And it's important to hear that reversed.
And that's a unifying message that I think resonates, whether you're low class, middle class, high class, and our basic values in America is work. Maybe, sometimes stepping on toes of other things, but the importance of rewarding hard work, and letting people pursue a full range of opportunities. That is, in a way, what we were built on. And part of that once again, I see that's exciting is he really talked about making sure that we're not looking at people that already have jobs. I'm sure those individuals will also get new opportunities. But we're looking at populations that maybe didn't have those opportunities in the first place. So rural America, we're looking at hopefully people with disabilities, people without as many opportunities to pursue education. And I think those are so exciting to be able, as he said, to work on building the bottom up and the middle out.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. I think his definite focus on rebuilding, we've all heard build back better. And this gives me hope of like, here are our next steps towards recovery, towards relief. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing some more of what rolls out in his second plan, seeing paid leave, seeing some more supports as we look at childcare and caregiving overall. What are some other things that make you all hopeful right now about this?
I can really say, sorry. So just saying, we're just also eager to share how we're hopeful with everything. So that's a good thing. But also just seeing how he's redefining the American dream by finally including the American people. So by cutting the child care poverty in half, that is just amazing to me. And so how do you do that? Of course, you're going to start with the families. You're going to start with the employment of these families, and then it's going to sliver on down to other areas that directly impact our children so that we can rebuild this nation to better than what it was before. So hearing the investment of everyone, no matter what your background is, that investment, again, it shows that we're united. This is not just a fight for one side versus the other. This is a fight just to make America better and whole. For once.
I also just was heartened that there's sort of something I think many of us have been pushing for quite a while, is talking about how important care is as infrastructure, how important it is to jobs and to the economy. And so just sort of a shift in that direction and valuing people and the work that has been undervalued, often invisible or unvalued for so long. Just kind of a whole new narrative is encouraging. And I also really loved that there was a focus on essential workers, because, we are still in the pandemic, to be clear. We're not out of it. But particularly, months ago, there was a lot of signs up. There were a lot of corporate ads thanking essential workers. And the thing that I carry with me every day is that we need to do more than praise or thank them. We need to change our systems and have some real, put some policy behind that, because that's how you honor sacrifice. That's how you honor and say thank you in a real, meaningful way. And a lot of these policies are that they are enumerating are the ways that you do that. So I just was glad that we're finally putting some muscle and some action behind that. Thanks.
Dawn, I'm so glad you brought that up. I recently was in the hospital. I'm not COVID related, but I was in the ICU, and there were lots of people with COVID all around me. And I was with nurses, doctors, respiratory therapists, aides who had been serving and working unbelievable hours through the pandemic. And a lot of them got COVID or had family. And I asked them, how are you dealing with this? And, some of them mentioned some are doing better than others. And unfortunately, many of them didn't have paid family or medical leave themselves, people working in the hospitals. Yeah. And so this is so important that as we look at benefits, as we're looking at some of what we believe will be Biden's next steps, that we're talking about this importance of paid family medical leave for essential workers, for people with disabilities, for families, for caregivers. And I'm so excited to see the importance of family about and our own health and wellness being put on the front line again.
Yeah, I just want to respond to what you said because it's so important. There was some emergency paid leave put into place last year, which was historic. It was our first national paid leave policy of any sort. But something just we want folks to know is that we think over 100 million workers were cut out of it. And a lot of those workers were frontline workers. And a lot of those frontline workers were people of color, were women. And so I think my hope is that we come out of this, we are pushing from paid leave for all to pass a permanent family and medical leave law so that we're never kind of scrambling in a national crisis like this again. And we're doing something that's structural and lasting to make sure that people are protected going forward, whether it's a global pandemic or whether it's a crisis in our own lives, which we all inevitably face. But again, a lot of the people who risked the most over the last year had the least protection. Yeah.
Agreed. I think the time is now. We are one of the few industrialized countries, the only one without paid leave. And when we think about the just protection of workers, the protection of our family, what we need to be by our family side, this is an easy fix to see us move forward on. And an easy way we can ensure that families and parents and workers are returning to jobs and aren't having gaps. Oh, your dog decided to join us. He also believes in the plan.
Yes.
What else is getting you all excited about this plan?
I'm excited to hear the next phase.
Yes.
I'm just waiting. I'm just ready. So I'm ready to hear what the next phase is and just hearing how well this plan the American Rescue, not the American Rescue Plan. So I'm just excited to see what that looks like for families, more detailed, and for working families. What does that look like for the paid leave? What does that look like for everyone? How do we really take care of America? So we see a little bit going on with the infrastructure. How does it really take care of people more in an invested way and more deeper than the surface? So I'm really excited to see what he says next. This was a good speech.
Yeah, totally agree with all of that. And I would just add to that, as you alluded, I think part 2 is going to be really connected to jobs as well. That the care economy creates really good, lasting, long-term jobs that we need. And we also know, as you said, that caregivers, predominantly women, have been dropping from the workforce. And this is, setting back progress that's been made over generations. So we need real interventions, and we're excited to hear more about it.
Yeah. I think all of you on here are also organizers. Organizers are heart in the field. What are you hoping people who listen to this message today will do next? What would they take action on? What's like getting you excited in the field?
I can go.
Okay,
So
all of you ready.
what I would love for anybody watching this, anybody that's watching this that wants to share what we're talking about, is that your voices are being heard, and we need for you to join us in this fight so that we can win this fight. We really can't do anything without the constituents or our membership base. We need to hear more people's voices so that there are other things I'm pretty sure that might get missed in this plan or the next phase plan too, because a lot of people are just not aware of it. So using your voice to spread awareness, to advocate for yourself, to strengthen your community, to know that you're not alone in this fight as well. I can't do my job without knowing what's going on with everyone around me. I can't do that at all. That would be so one-sided, and then just welcoming people to open conversations and joining meetings, coming to forums like this, get involved in your future, get invested in helping making America better for you. So that it's just not reflecting what might work for everyone else. You have to be heard as well too.
Yeah, I would second all of that. We need to make sure that our elected representatives hear from all of us. So, I hope that you feel excited and encouraged by what's been said today. Voice your support for it. Voice your support for part 2 to come, and further investments in paid leave and childcare, as we've said. These are all policies that will save jobs and will save lives. And that will impact every single one of us in this country. So yeah, I would just say all of us have websites and platforms to follow and social media and easy kind of action pages and tools and phone numbers and text lines. So we just encourage you to follow along and stay engaged and let us know if you want to, get more involved.
That's right. And I guess for me, I want people to take from this a hope of possibilities. I think in this past year and a half, our souls have been really downtrodden. Whether it's because of the virus, social isolation, racism, all of those things. There's a new hope. And that's so exciting. And part of that hope is that we all can have a voice in that hope, that we all can speak to our legislators, write a letter to the president. Our voice does matter. And so I want to encourage all of you, just as these amazing individuals said, get involved, whether you're a person from rural America, whether you're fighting to get a job, whether you're a person with a disability or a caregiver, your voice matters now. And so please use what is possible, these possibilities that the president has mentioned to shape the future. He said, this is the moment that America won the future, and it's only won by the people. And so please speak up, speak out. The time's now.
Thank you so much. Like our voices are voices of hope, and our voices are voices of power. And it is our time to take action. I really want to appreciate all of you all. It's always nice when we can be in conversation together. Thank you so much for being on here today. It was just lovely to hear your responses to this moving legislation. So thank you all for joining. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.